So you've done everything right. You've built the life you were supposed to build. The career is on track. Your personal life seems solid. I mean, from the outside looking in, everything is just fine. But then you wake up one day and something just feels off. And that feeling, that quiet nagging that something is missing, or maybe this deep confusion, well, it's way more common than you might think. It's this weird paradox of having what looks like a perfect life that suddenly feels hollow. If any of this sounds familiar, trust me, you are definitely not alone. So let's really dive into this, because what we've all been taught to call a midlife crisis, it might not be a crisis at all. We're going to reframe it as something way more powerful, a chrysalis, a time for some pretty profound transformation. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll bust the myth of the crisis. Then we'll get into what's really going on emotionally, the unraveling. After that, we'll look at the science behind it all. And most importantly, we'll talk about how you can actually navigate this big change. Okay, so first things first, we have got to get rid of the cliche. The whole idea of a midlife crisis, let's be honest, it has a serious branding problem. We all know the stereotype, right? The guy who buys the red sports car, the person who suddenly leaves their marriage to go find themselves. But the reality for most people, it is so much more internal. It's about a deep, quiet confusion. It's about questioning your entire identity and this huge, growing craving for real meaning in your life. And author Chip Conley just nails it with this quote. This isn't a breakdown. It's a chrysalis. It's this natural, profound, and honestly necessary period of transformation. It's not an ending. It's a metamorphosis. And that leads us perfectly into what researcher Brené Brown calls the midlife unraveling. It's that jarring, kind of disorienting moment when you look around at the life you've worked so incredibly hard to build, and you just realize it doesn't quite fit anymore. And you know what's wild? Just how many people feel this exact same way. You might feel totally lost or stuck, constantly second-guessing huge life decisions you made years ago. You might feel trapped by your own routines. Like author John Green puts it, you suddenly become so aware of your one wild and precious life, and that awareness makes it so hard to figure out what to do next. So why? Why does this happen? It can feel so deeply personal, like it's just you. But there's actually some really fascinating science that explains why this is a pretty predictable stage of life. Okay, get this. Researchers all over the world have discovered what they call the U-curve of happiness. Basically, our life satisfaction tends to be high when we're young. Then it dips in our 40s, hitting rock bottom around ages 45 to 50. But then, and this is the amazing part, it starts climbing steadily back up through our 60s, 70s, and beyond. So that dip you might be feeling, it's real, it's universal, and best of all, it's temporary. And then there's this brilliant idea from the psychologist Erik Erikson. He said the central conflict of midlife is generativity versus stagnation. Now, generativity is just a fancy word for that deep human urge to create things, to contribute, to mentor the next generation, to make things that will outlast you. Stagnation is the opposite. It's that feeling of being stuck, just running in place. So here's the big takeaway. Midlife is a pivot. It's a huge shift in focus. See, the first half of our adult lives is often all about building and accomplishing things. A career, a family, a reputation. The driving question is, what can I get? But the second half, it starts to shift toward aligning with our deeper values and contributing. The question becomes, what can I give? That restless feeling isn't a bug, it's your mind and soul gearing up for this next vital stage. All right, so we get the what and the why of all this. Now for the really important part, the how. How do you actually move through this period, not as a victim of a crisis, but as the hero of your own transformation? It helps to think of this whole transition in 3 stages. First, there's the ending. This is where you have to acknowledge and let go of the old identities and beliefs that just don't work for you anymore. Then comes the messy middle, the chrysalis. This part's uncomfortable. You're not who you were, but you're not yet who you're going to be. But this is where all the magic happens. And finally, you get to the new beginning. You emerge, like a butterfly, with a much clearer, more authentic sense of who you really are. Really, the core psychological work of this entire journey is about reorienting where you get your sense of worth. It's all about a massive shift away from seeking external validation, needing the applause, the promotions, the approval from others, and toward developing a solid, unshakable internal validation, knowing your own value for yourself. And the good news is you can be proactive here. Experts suggest thinking of it as a midlife refresh. This can be as simple as reconnecting with friends who really see you or learning a new skill just for the fun of it. Prioritizing self care isn't selfish, it's essential. Getting outside more, dedicating real time to that passion project you've been putting off, these things matter. And you know what? Talking to a therapist isn't a sign of weakness, it's a powerful tool for navigating any major life transition. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? This period of questioning isn't a sign that you failed or that your life went wrong. It's a sign that you're waking up. It's an invitation to begin living your second life, the more conscious, more authentic one. The question is no longer, what's wrong with me? It's, okay, what's next?